Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles. I'm sitting here staring at the coffee table trying to piece everything together. A part of me still doesn't want to believe it, even though the signs were all there. I feel like I'm trying to make sense of a story that's been written in slow motion, and I just couldn't read between the lines until it was too late. It wasn't always like this, though. For the first few years of our marriage, things were good. I mean, yeah, we had our issues, but who doesn't, right? But those early years, they were full of hope. Then came the rough patches. Sarah went through a phase with drugs and alcohol, and I stood by her through all of it. I loved her. I was ready to fight for us. There were nights when she'd cry herself to sleep, asking me if I was going to leave her. I tell her, "No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for you." And when she made the choice to get clean, I thought that was it. That was the hard part behind us. But I was wrong. I should have known better. About 2 years ago, our sex life started to fade. At first, it was easy to explain away. Work was stressful. We'd been through a lot. I told myself it's just a phase. I tried to be the loving husband. Dinner dates, surprise flowers, even booking a weekend getaway to try to reconnect. But nothing worked. Sarah wasn't interested, always too tired, always too busy. I'd ask her, "Are we okay? I feel like there's distance between us." And she'd look at me, shrug, and say, "I'm just not in the mood, Dylan. It's not you. It's just everything else." But I didn't get it. I kept pushing, trying different things, thinking maybe it was my fault. Maybe I wasn't doing enough. And then she started talking about Bruce. It started off innocent enough at first. Casual mentions of his name here and there. "Oh, Bruce said the funniest thing in the meeting today," or "Bruce's idea really helped with that problem." I didn't think much of it at first. After all, she worked in banking and she was good at her job, but then it was more mentions. Every conversation seemed to circle back to Bruce. One evening we were having dinner, just the two of us. I was trying to be lighthearted, cracking a joke to lift the mood, but Sarah wasn't really paying attention. She was scrolling through her phone, glancing up only to say, "Oh, Bruce is so funny. He just texted me this meme." I paused, fork halfway to my mouth. "Bruce again?" She looked up, a slight flush on her cheeks. "What? He's just the good guy. We talk at work. That's all right?" I said, trying to keep my cool, though I could feel a knot tighten in my stomach. "You talk about him a lot." Sarah looked at me, her brow furrowed. "Dylan, are you jealous?" "No," I said too quickly. I don't know. It just seems like every time you talk, it's about Bruce." She looked away, tapping her phone against the table, clearly uncomfortable. "I didn't think you'd be so sensitive about it. It's just work stuff." But the truth is, it wasn't just work stuff anymore. It was personal. She was talking about Bruce more than she was talking about me. There was a shift in her tone, a softness when she spoke about him, something I hadn't heard in a while. It didn't stop there. More mentions, more stories. One evening I asked her, "Did Bruce say anything about our project today?" Her face lit up and it hit me like a ton of bricks. "Oh yes, he actually said something really insightful. He said, 'If you want to climb the ladder, you need to stop looking at the rungs and just jump.' Isn't that just brilliant?" I blinked. "And you agree with him?" She nodded eagerly. "Of course, he's really smart, Dylan. He gets it." I tried to hold my composure, but it was starting to feel like Bruce was becoming a fixture in our home, like he was already part of our lives, even though I hadn't even met him. The more she talked about him, the more I wanted to know, who is this guy? Why did she talk about him like he was important? The way she spoke about Bruce made me feel like I was on the outside looking in. I started noticing things. She'd laugh when she read messages from him. Sometimes her eyes would brighten when his name appeared on her phone. It was subtle at first, but then I couldn't ignore it. There was something more there, something I wasn't part of. And one night after another mention of Bruce, I said, "Why do you always talk about him like that? Like he's the most interesting person in your life." Sarah froze, her hand mid-air with her glass of wine. She looked at me, and I could see the change in her eyes, the barrier she'd put up. "Dylan, why are you making this a thing? Bruce is just a friend. We work together. He's a good person." But I didn't buy it. Not anymore. I started to feel small, like I was a ghost in my own home. This guy, Bruce, was slowly becoming the center of her world, and I was just fading into the background. I don't even know when it happened, but by the time I started to see it, I knew his whole life story. It was about a month ago when Sarah told me she was going out for happy hour with some of her female co-workers. Instantly, my gut tightened. The first thought that came to my mind was, she's drinking again? We'd been through enough already. And the idea of her slipping back into old habits was something I couldn't ignore. I looked at her, trying to sound calm, but the concern was there, creeping into my voice. "So, you're drinking again?" She waved it off, giving me a reassuring smile. "No, I'm not drinking. Just going to hang out with the girls from work. You know, unwind." I nodded, but the unease didn't leave me. I knew better than to push it right then. If I did, I might end up accusing her of something she wasn't doing, and that was a line I wasn't willing to cross without proof. Still, the thought lingered. What was really going on? She came home around 7 p.m. that evening, sober. No trace of alcohol on her, not even the faintest whiff. I tried to shake off the tension I was holding in my chest. Maybe I was being paranoid, I thought. Maybe it was just me overthinking things, but when the happy hours started happening more frequently, 2-3 times a week, I couldn't deny the growing sense that something was off. It wasn't the frequency that bothered me. It was how normal she made it seem. Always home at a reasonable hour, always sober, but something wasn't right. Something about the way she seemed so eager to leave, so engaged in these outings. I wanted to believe her. I really did, but deep down, I could feel it. There was more to it than she was telling me, and I couldn't shake the thought that I wasn't the person she was sharing everything with anymore. One night, I was sitting on the couch, a pizza box between us, the TV flickering with some mindless action movie. I was trying to enjoy the rare, quiet moment, but there was that nagging feeling again. It was like an itch in the back of my mind that I couldn't scratch. Sarah, without warning, turned to me. "I think we should open our marriage." I froze. My hand paused midair, a slice of pizza halfway to my mouth. I blinked. What? My brain couldn't process it fast enough. What? I said the word escaping before I could stop it. She took a deep breath, like she had been preparing this speech for a while. "I've been thinking about it. Dylan, one of my coworkers, and her husband are doing it, and it's really worked for them. They said it spiced up their relationship, helped them reconnect. I think it could work for us, too." I put the pizza down slowly, my mind racing. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream, to ask what the hell she was talking about, but I couldn't let the emotion take over. Not yet. I tried to keep my voice even, though I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. "So you're saying you want us to open our marriage?" The words tasted foreign in my mouth. Sarah nodded. "Yeah, I think it could be good for us. We've been through so much, and maybe this could help us find something new. We could both explore new connections, and we wouldn't have to hide anything from each other. It could make things better." I stared at her. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to lash out, but I held it in. I felt numb. I'll think about it," I said, more to avoid a fight than anything else. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew. I knew she had been thinking about this for a while. She didn't bring this up out of the blue. I didn't need her to tell me. I could see it in her eyes, in the way she spoke about it, the ease with which she suggested it. I wasn't just some random afterthought. I knew there was someone else in her mind, someone who had been there long before this conversation. Bruce. It had to be him. The very next day I made a call. I didn't tell Sarah about it. I didn't want to show my cards just yet. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. I dialed the number I had been given for a private investigator. As the phone rang, I tried to steady my breath. I had a sinking feeling in my stomach, but I pushed it down. I had to do this. I had to know the truth. When the investigator picked up, I said, "I need you to look into someone for me. His name is Bruce. I think he works with my wife." The phone called to the private investigator. It felt wrong, like I was violating some unspoken trust, but I had to know. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, wondering if I was just imagining things, if I was being paranoid. When Sarah started talking about an open marriage, it was like the final nail in the coffin. And then there was Bruce. All the little mentions, all the stories. It made my stomach twist into knots every time she brought him up. So yeah, I called the PI. I told him I wasn't sure if Sarah was cheating. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the open marriage talk, the increasing frequency of these happy hours, the way she seemed so distant, it all felt off. And when I mentioned Bruce, I could practically hear him scribbling notes on the other end of the line. He said he'd look into it, and then I waited. In the meantime, I wasn't sitting idle. I went to see a divorce attorney. The guy was straight to the point, no sugarcoating. He told me that in Georgia, if I could prove infidelity, I wouldn't have to pay spousal support. That part at least gave me a small sense of relief. I wasn't ready to make any big moves yet, but it was good to know I wouldn't be financially shackled to this betrayal. He also told me something else. If you have a joint account, open a new one. It's easier to protect yourself and your finances that way. That hit me hard. It wasn't just the emotional betrayal. This was practical, cold reality. I had to start thinking about myself, protecting what little I had left. For 3 weeks, I kept walking on eggshells. Sarah grew more and more distant, and I pretended not to notice. I didn't want to tip her off. Didn't want to give her any reason to cover her tracks further. Every time she walked out the door for one of her happy hours, I was left wondering what was really going on. But I stayed quiet. Didn't make a scene. Part of me hoped I was wrong, that it was all in my head, but my gut told me otherwise. When the PI finally called, I wasn't prepared for what he had to say, not in a million years. I picked up the phone, tried to sound calm, but I could feel the blood rushing to my face. "Mr. Wells, we've got the information you asked for." The investigator said, "Your wife's been seeing Bruce for a while now, but it's not just him. She's also involved with her coworkers, the one she mentioned when she brought up the open marriage, the whole happy hour thing. It was a cover." My stomach dropped, and I felt the room spin. I couldn't breathe. I had suspected it, sure, but hearing it confirmed felt like I was punched in the gut. 15 years of my life. And this is how. It ended. With lies, with betrayal, and who knows how many other men she was involved with. I felt like the world was collapsing around me. I didn't confront her. Didn't see the point. What was I supposed to say? "Hey, I know you're cheating. I know about Bruce and the others. It wouldn't change anything." The trust was already shattered, beyond repair. It was over. It had been over for a while. The very next day, I filed for divorce. No fanfare, no dramatic confrontation. I just walked away. I moved out while she was at work. Left my keys on the kitchen counter. That was it. 15 years of my life packed into a few boxes and a broken heart. It wasn't the cleanest exit. It wasn't easy, but I couldn't stay there pretending. Everything was fine, pretending that she wasn't in bed with other people while I was left in the dark. The divorce wasn't pretty. It never is. She tried to paint me as the villain, said I was emotionally unavailable, that I had driven her to cheat. I didn't even bother responding. I let the PI's evidence speak for itself. The photos, the texts, the accounts of her nights out, it was enough to crush her argument. In the end, I didn't have to pay a single penny in spousal support. No alimony, no nothing. She didn't get a damn thing. Now here I am, 47 years old, starting over. It's strange, you know. After so many years of being with someone, building a life, it feels like I don't even know who I am without her. Some days I'm just angry. So damn angry at her for what she did, for how she tore apart everything we had. Other days, I'm just sad. There's this emptiness inside me that I don't know how to fill. I thought we'd figured it out. Thought we'd been through the worst together, but I was wrong, so wrong. Mostly, I'm just trying to figure out who I am without her, without the person I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. There's a part of me that feels like I'm learning how to live again, starting fresh. But the pain is still there. It's still raw. I don't know if I'll ever get over it. I don't know if I'm even supposed to, but I couldn't see any other way forward. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. And without trust, what's left? It's a question that keeps bouncing around in my head like a broken record. I keep asking myself, could I have done something differently? If I'd been more attentive, more understanding, would she still have strayed? I spent weeks trapped in that cycle of self-doubt, trying to figure out where I went wrong, but I think that's a trap. Her choices were her own. I can't take responsibility for them, no matter how much I wish I could have changed things. So, I'm moving forward one day at a time. It's not easy. Some days it feels like I'm trudging through thick mud, and other days it's like I'm taking one step closer to solid ground. But I have to keep going. There's no other choice. I've started rediscovering old hobbies, the things I used to enjoy before everything was about us. I've taken up painting again. Nothing fancy, just some watercolor landscapes and the occasional abstract mess. It feels good to do something that's just for me, something that's purely mine, not shared or scrutinized. I've also started reconnecting with friends I drifted away from. Friends who at one point were probably sick of hearing about Sarah and I, but now they're there for me, picking up where we left off like no time has passed. I'm trying to remember who I was before I became half of a couple. Who was Dylan before all of this? Before I put so much of my identity in the relationship. I can't fully answer that yet, but I'm getting closer. It's like I'm rediscovering pieces of myself that had gotten lost along the way. There are good days and bad days. Some days, I wake up and feel like I'm okay. I laugh with a friend, feel the warmth of a good meal, and for a moment I forget the pain, but then other days I'm hit with this overwhelming wave of grief. I miss her so much it physically hurts. I miss the way we'd sit on the couch, her head on my shoulder, the way we'd laugh at stupid things. But I know now that it's all an illusion. Those moments, the ones that made me feel safe, were built on lies. And that's something I have to remind myself of every single time the pain comes creeping in. Other times, I'm furious. I want to call her up, scream at her, demand answers. Why did you do this? How could you betray me like this? But I stopped myself. What would it change? It wouldn't bring back the trust. It wouldn't heal the wounds. And besides, I'm not the man I was when I first found out. That guy, the one who just wanted to fix things, he's gone. I'm learning to let go of the anger bit by bit. But mostly, I'm just trying to heal. I know it won't happen overnight, and there will be days when I take 2 steps forward and then fall 3 steps back. But I'm committed to doing the work. I've started therapy, and it's been helpful. It's not easy to open up to a stranger, but I'm learning how to process the anger, the sadness, the confusion. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe I'll find love again someday. Maybe I won't. The thought of starting over with someone else is both terrifying and exhilarating. But I know one thing for sure. I won't settle for less than what I deserve. And I deserve someone who values me, who respects me, and who chooses me every day. But right now, I'm focusing on me. And in a way, that feels like a victory. Some days it feels like I'm failing, like I'll never get over it, like I'll always be the guy whose wife cheated on him. But other days, I feel the first glimmers of hope. I'm taking it one day at a time, learning to be okay on my own again. It's a journey, but I'm hopeful. After all, the end of one chapter is just the beginning of another. It had been about 8 months since the divorce when I heard the news. I was sitting at home enjoying a quiet evening when my phone buzzed with a message from one of Sarah's old friends. I hadn't heard from her in a while, and truthfully, I didn't expect to. We hadn't been close, but she had always been friendly enough back when Sarah and I were still married. The message caught me off guard, though. It was casual at first, almost like she was trying to ease into something uncomfortable. "Hey, Dylan. I know it's been a while. Hope you're doing well. Just thought I'd fill you in on what's going on with Sarah." My stomach sank a little as I read the first part. I hadn't been expecting an update on her life, and I sure as hell hadn't asked for one, but she had kept going. She and Bruce split up. I know it was a tough time for her. They were in that open relationship, but Bruce found someone else, and that was it. He's seeing her exclusively now, so Sarah moved out. I froze. My ex-wife, the woman who had once been everything to me, had to face that betrayal too. I wasn't happy to hear it, but in some twisted way, it felt like justice. After all she'd done, all the lies she had told, seeing her on the receiving end of that same kind of hurt somehow felt fair. The message continued. "She's not doing great, but she's been transferred to a branch in a new town. It's about 4 hours away from where you used to live, so she's trying to start fresh." It was a lot to take in all at once. Bruce, her lover, had moved on, and the others she'd been involved with had ended things too. Sarah had tried to keep it all together, but in the end, the open relationship was the thing that unraveled her. Maybe it had been fun at first, exciting, freeing even, but it hadn't worked out the way she had hoped, and now here she was on her own. Part of me felt some sense of relief. She was paying for her choices, and I didn't have to be the one to make her suffer anymore. But another part of me, something I didn't like to acknowledge, felt a twinge of sympathy for her. She had been so sure that opening up our marriage was the answer, so certain that it would fix everything. But in the end, it just made everything fall apart. It wasn't the freedom she'd imagined, and now she was alone. Then came the twist, the part one hadn't expected, the part that made my heart skip a beat. "She's tried to contact you." My ex-wife's friend wrote, "She's called, emailed, and texted, but I know you've probably seen them and haven't responded. She's been really upset, wondering why you haven't reached out. She feels I don't know, like you hate her." The words stung. Of course I had seen them, every message, every voicemail, every text, but I hadn't responded. I couldn't. How could I? After everything, how could I let her back in? She had betrayed me, torn apart the life we had built. There was nothing left for her to say that could undo that. Nothing she could say that would take away the hurt, the anger, the mistrust. In the beginning, I had told myself that I was done with the lies, done with the heartbreak, done with her. And despite the little voice in my head that tried to argue, I had stayed true to that promise. I hadn't responded to any of her messages. Not one, because I knew that if I did, I'd just be opening up old wounds. And I wasn't ready for that. I thought about the time she'd called me, her voice, full of remorse, or maybe it was just guilt. I'd imagined her sitting alone in that new town, staring at her phone, hoping that I would just pick up and make it all right again. But I couldn't be that guy, not anymore. I didn't respond. I didn't want to. I had moved on, and I was rebuilding my life. The only way I could truly move forward was by cutting her out completely. It was hard, sure, but I had learned that sometimes the only way to heal is by leaving the past behind you. So, I kept my silence. I didn't respond to any of her messages, because no matter how much she might have hurt, how much she might have regretted, I knew one thing for sure. I had to protect myself, and part of protecting myself was keeping my distance. It was painful, and there were times I wondered if I was doing the right thing. But in the end, I knew I couldn't go back. Not to her. Not to the woman who had broken me. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.